All right. Hello and welcome to InvertiCast. I am Leah from Tarantula, and with me as always is Simon from the Mantis Garden. And today we have a guest, and his name is Baz, and he is from Baz Ants. Hello, Baz.
Hello, everyone. How are we all doing?
Welcome. Awesome. So obviously today we're going to be talking about ants and Baz. So I guess my first question for you is, how did you get into ants, and how did you get started doing that?
I feel like this is the same thing Simon wanted to ask as well.
No, don't worry about it, Baz. I'm gonna think of something on the fly to put you on the spot. Don't worry about it.
Well, I don't know. That's a weird one. Basically, in a few years ago, well, probably about 4 years ago now, I started watching the ant videos on YouTube and stuff, just randomly. When I was young, I had the first ant farm, which I'm sure a lot of people had when they were younger as well. There's like a little project sort of thing. But no, it became a big thing when I'd seen the videos on YouTube and thought, oh, I wouldn't mind doing that. That'd be quite cool. So yeah, it is pretty much just seeing stuff on YouTube that got me into it, and I thought, oh, I'll give that a go, and then it stemmed off from there, I suppose.
Cool. What was the first species that you started with?
The first species I got was Mesobarbarus, which is a European species, not a UK species, but the rest of Europe. And their primary diet was seeds, so they're really easy to keep because they don't need protein in the form of insects, and they don't need sugar. So it's just easy to keep. Just feed them seeds, and they're quite a lot bigger than the native ones we get in the UK. So
cool.
It's a bit more appealing. But yeah, it was those.
That's pretty cool. So speaking of starter species, do you have a recommendation for somebody who maybe is just getting started, they want to get some ants? What species would you recommend for somebody like that?
First, it's going to be a bit controversial because everyone in the UK says the best beginner ant is Lasius niger, which is the common black garden ant, and they're tiny. You can't really see them. They take a while to grow, and occasionally, even once they've got workers and they're doing quite well, the queen can sometimes die, and then that's the end of the colony. So everyone else will say that's the main beginner ant. I go against that, and I say you want to go for something such as the Mesobarbarus or one of the Campanota species, which is the wood ants. And the best one to go for them would be Nicobarensis, which are a fairly large ant. Colouring, they're just a bit with a brown hue sort of thing. The workers are quite big. They also get majors, which are kind of like soldier ants, but not quite. They're just bigger workers with bigger heads, and they grow really, really fast, unlike the Lasius niger that grows extremely slow even when you heat them. Stuff like when you have to do a test tube change, which is what they live in, Lasius niger will be stubborn and they'll stay in there for months even though there's no water, as in Mesobarbarus or Camponotus nicobarensis. If you want to move them to a fresh tube, it's extremely easy. They're more than happy to move over. So yeah, a lot of the companies would say Lasius niger. That's mainly purely because it's native. So if you get bored of them, you can always release them outside.
Oh wow! Okay.
And because they're extremely cheap, and you can practically get them for free if you wait until they fly. But yeah, I go against that, and I'd say a Mesobarbarus or a Camponotus nicobarensis.
I've got 100% agree with Baz because I've had all 3 of those. And the only one we've got, and it's the oldest colony, is the Mesobarbarus. And we have a few thousand of them. And I got them from Baz.
Yeah.
Rock on.
Yeah, that was a nice colony, those. Yeah, I'm glad you still got them. A couple of drops on the floor.
Okay. So how do you keep them in their enclosure? Because I would imagine that like some species of ants, you need to set up like a pretty decent size enclosure for them. But ants are tricky. Like they get anywhere and everywhere. So how do you just keep them in one spot?
There's quite a few different methods actually to do that. Obviously, if you was to buy a colony from an ant store, they'd arrive and they'd be in a test tube. Depending on the size of the ant, they'll either be in a small test tube or a longer one. And you keep them in that test tube until they get to about, well, depending on the species, but we'll say 30 workers. And then you move them to a nest, sort of thing. So when they're in the nest, you don't open the top or anything. That's a sealed compartment that they live in. The nest is attached to an outworld, which is their outside foraging area, to say. And that will have a lid so you can put food in and stuff. And the way you keep them in there, obviously, when you open the lid to feed them, they're all going to start running around and trying to come out. So if it's a small colony, you can usually get away with just leaving, having no protection, just take the lid off and feed, and they won't come pouring out.
Okay.
If you've got a bit of a larger colony, you can use, there's 2 products that are designed for keeping ants in. And then there's also stuff like Vaseline and oil. You can put a thin layer of that around the top, and they can't go over it. Some species can. The bigger they are, the more you have to kind of put on.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But the 2 products are, you have Ant Slip, which is a PTFE ingredient thing. It's basically talcum powder and rubbing alcohol. And you put that on, and when the ants touch it, because it's dried, the talcum powder falls off, so they slip off and they just fall back down. And that will last for, depending on how many ants are trying to get out, that can last for up to 2 months before you have to put the thing on. Or if you've got a species of ant that is, say, from Asia, where it's a lot more humid, so you have to keep the setup more humid. You don't use the talcum powder one, you use an oil-based PTFE thing, and you just put that around. It's a bit more messy. I tend not to use that one because it does kind of get everywhere. But
interesting.
Yeah, there's those 2 products. If you don't want to use those, you can use Vaseline, just a thin layer around, or I can't remember if it's normal oil or vegetable oil, or not normal oil, but vegetable oil or sunflower oil. It's one of those. You can use that.
The baby oil works as well, mate.
I've not tried that one, but yeah.
I tried it around I put it around the top of the. Do you know when I first had them? When I put them in a jar, I put baby oil around the top because I couldn't find the Vaseline, and they didn't go out. So.
Okay, baby oil, baby oil too. Yeah.
Yeah, but the Vaseline for me, I've got the ant slip that you're talking about. I got that. Tom sent me that, and they just walked straight over it. They just ignored it completely, and got out. And then I covered it in Vaseline, and they've never been out since. And we've never put Vaseline on it now for 8 months. So
yeah, that's
and
good.
it's still not. They can't come out. So it lasts a lot longer, I think, than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of my enclosures are pretty contained, and they're most of them are on the larger side, so I can get away with opening the lid, and the ants are too busy anyway to know that I've opened it, and I just drop stuff in. But for smaller setups and stuff, yeah, you definitely need one of them, because you can have a big escape, and you don't want that.
Right, like an infestation.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've been there when Lil dropped it, when she dropped the enclosure, and all the ants came out. 2,000 of them. We counted them. We actually counted them one by one when we put them back in the new enclosure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh!
Just over 2,000.
Yeah, no,
that's
wild.
As well, Baz.
Yeah, if you look at them, you can always estimate how many are in there. But if they escape, then there's definitely a lot more. They just get everywhere.
And I can tell you something else about mesobarbarus. The big ones hurt when they bite you.
Yeah.
Ooh. So Lily says, and when you tried to rehouse them, I bet that's pretty complicated, rehousing ants.
Yeah, it can be, especially big colonies
and
stuff.
How do you go about doing that? Would you just set up kind of like a trail for them to just kind of migrate over, or do you have to just take everything out and put it all in the new one?
Yeah. So to move an ant colony, say if they were in a test tube still, and with a test tube set up, you fill a portion of it with water, and then a cotton ball you put down it to block the water, and then you put the ants in, so they'll drink through the cotton, and that will give them humidity and stuff also.
Okay.
If you were trying to move a colony from one test tube to another, say if it went, the one they're living in went moldy or something, the way I do it is piping PVC tubes, and you get the right size of the tube, and I just put one end and then a fresh test tube set up on the other.
Okay.
And usually within time they'd move. A lot of them can be quite stubborn, and they don't want to move house. So
I'm sure.
ways of doing that is you can shine a bright light on them, and it usually aggravates them a little bit, and they'll move. If that doesn't work, you can stop heating the side that they're on and let it go cold, and they'll move to the heated side. If you had a bigger setup and you were trying to move house, which doesn't happen a lot, usually you have your setup, and if they're quite big and they've outgrown it, you just add on another bit and then connect it with the tubing. But if you did want to move them, you'd do basically the same thing. You'd attach your new setup, and you'd let the old one either dry out so there's no humidity, and then they start moving the eggs over to the new one, or you let it go cold and they'll move over to the heated side. That
makes sense, because I know like a lot of species of invertebrate will move or migrate from one environment to another because of issues like that, like change in the environment, like lack of nutrition, lack of heat and a good heat source, or like flooding, stuff like that. Like, I think we talked about that when we were talking about cicadas, and that's kind of why they swarm, and they so it makes sense that ants would do it too.
Yeah, there is the fire ant, the main fire ant, so Solenopsis invicta or Solenopsis geminata, where they're from is prone to flash flooding and stuff, and when it floods where they live, I think there might be another 2 species that can do it, but I'm pretty sure they're the only main one. They'll actually cling on together and they'll float with the flood.
Oh, wow.
So instead of just evacuating and moving house, they'll actually just bring everyone out of the ground, and they'll hold on to each other and form a raft. And some of them are quite big, and you'll see a massive ants floating.
Amazing.
Down the river in the flood, I suppose. But
would those be the red ants that we know and love here in the States?
Yes.
Yeah. I had a feeling.
Yeah, the main one. You can get them over here, but it's a bit of a controversial thing. It's a bit frowned upon if you get.
Oh, really? Why is that?
They grow extremely quick. Within a month, you can go from just having a queen and some eggs to a few hundred workers.
Wow.
And they are very prone to escaping, no matter what you put them in. They're really, really small, and they grow so fast. A lot of people can't keep up with the setup. And then you get people that buy a big aquarium and they put them in that, and then when they outgrow that and they're still growing, you can't move them. There's quite a few videos on YouTube of people having them escape in their house.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. They are.
It's it's not not the night. I've kept them once. They died, unfortunately, before they got about 100 workers, but I tried to keep them, and before they died, they were already getting a bit too much due to how fast they grow, because they take up a lot of food and they grow really fast. And
they are very quick, and their bites are awful. Like if you get, you never get bit by just one either.
Yeah, they have a very very painful sting as well as ants do.
Certainly, yes.
I've not been stung, but I know it would be painful.
Yeah, I've been stung a lot by red ants. That's definitely something that like we deal with here in the States. Is, I mean, most of the time you find little black ants or carpenter ants, which I think you said were wood ants. And they're okay, like they pretty much leave you alone. But the red ants, if you mess with their with their nest, because you can see where they build a nest, they make a really nice big mound. And so if you get anywhere near it or anything, you're going to have at least 5 or 6 of them on you before you even realize it.
Yeah,
and they bite, and it hurts so bad.
Yeah, and I think the majority of America also have they're called or the Latin name is, probably going to butcher this one. It's Pogonomyrmex barbatus. And that's the main species, and they are the American equivalent of Mesobarbarus. The seed eaters. However, the American ones, which are abundant through America, they're everywhere. They're pretty much the exact same as Mesobarbarus, but they sting instead of bite. They're extremely violent. You've probably, not knowingly which ones they are, but you would have seen those before and probably been bitten and stung.
I'm sure I have. Yeah.
They're the American version of Mesobarbarus, and I've kept those a few times. They grow quite fast, and they're quite entertaining. They're one of the only seed eaters that also take sugars and protein in the form of insects.
So when you say protein in the form of insects, does that mean that you are essentially like pre-killing like a cricket and throwing that in there, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the majority of ants, unless they're purely seed eaters, which is only a few species, you need to feed them sugars, which is in the form of like a sugar solution or anything sweet. That's what the workers live off. And then they also need protein in the form of insects. So the way pretty much everyone does it is pre-kill a cricket or a roach or anything like that, and you just drop it in and they'll scavenge it.
They take care of the rest, huh?
When you've got a massive colony, a few people live feed, which is, again, it's another controversial thing. Some people do, some people don't. People like it, some people don't. Personally, I've done it a few times with some of my larger colonies. to me, it's not. I don't think it's that bad because in nature, ants are mainly scavengers, but they will take down small prey and stuff.
Sure.
So yeah, any insect though for protein, so like locusts, roaches, anything like that. If you've got a small ant colony and there's a moth in your house, you can catch the moth, you can throw it in, they'll deal with it. So
okay,
but yeah, protein and sugars are the main diet of pretty much all ant species.
That's fascinating.
There are some species that only take live prey.
Oh wow!
So trapjaw ants, Odontopanera species, which are like they're considered not prehistoric ants, but the same way there's New World tarantulas and Old World tarantulas. Right. The dinosaur ants, is what a lot of people call them. They're more taking live food, and they don't bother with anything that's pre-killed. And then you've got like the seed eaters and stuff. So it all depends on species, but yeah, the majority have carbohydrates, sugars, and then insects.
So there's a trapdoor species of ant?
Trapjaw.
Yeah, trapjaw.
Trapjaw.
Yeah, trapjaw species, which are considered one of the best ants to keep purely because of how they are. Uh-huh. Instead of normal mandibles, they have basically like a bear trap, and that's their jaw. It sits at 180 degrees, and their long antennas, when they hit something, they'll snap them shut. I can't remember exactly how fast it is, but I think it's considered the fastest moving part in the insect kingdom or something like that. I have a feeling it was 80 miles an hour or something. I think that might be wrong, but that's the number that's stuck in my head. So that's extremely incredible. Fast, and they're so quick. If you keep them, you can actually hear the little tick when they snap them shut.
Oh my gosh!
So yeah, they're very cool. Don't see an awful lot of them. I think a lot of people buy them and then end up not caring for them properly because they are one of the harder ones to keep.
Where are they from?
Trapjaws are from the common ones are from Asia. There's a couple of species in Africa, which are the larger ones. But yeah, it's mostly Asia. All the cool ants come from Asia. All the cool ones come from Asia, and then it's America, and then Africa, and then UK is right at the bottom with the most boring.
Wow.
Surely Iceland sort of has less.
Oh yeah. Iceland.
we can't be that. We can't be absolutely at the bottom. I know we're pretty bad with insects, but we can't be that bad. There's got to be something worse. One of the ones that I like is the metabele, which is a bit of an odd one, isn't it? I'm assuming you know more about that than I do.
What was it called?
No, the metabele.
Metabele.
Yeah, metabele.
I think you've got it there.
It hunts termites.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. No, that does ring a bell. Yeah, the termite hunters. That's quite a lot of other ants as well, especially the Asian ones. They'll primarily hunt termites and stuff. I actually have termites in the post at the moment, and my plan is to get them to a substantial size where I can use them as food for the ants, because that's in an ideal world, that's what you're supposed to feed them. That's what they hunt in the wild.
Sure.
But yeah, I have heard of those. I don't know a lot about them. That's probably, you've got me there. You've done well. but yeah, I know the rough area of the species and stuff.
nurse ants, don't they, as well? In the Metabile, they have one of their castes is like a nurse that looks after fallen warriors and stuff.
Yeah. So
back to the nest and looks after them.
Yeah, you have. There's another species that do that. They're called Dasaton amerigium, something like that. They're pretty cool looking. They've got a heart-shaped head that's massive with the same as trap jaws, but instead of 180 degrees, they're sort of
amazing.
The Metabile is the same genus.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to research.
I just forgot.
You stumped our ant expert, Simon. What the heck?
You said you'd do it. You said you'd do it.
I did, that was off the top of my head, actually. I just remembered it from a many moons ago, David Attenborough. So,
so the nurse ants they have there's quite a lot of different castes. Obviously depending on species. So most of the Camponotus, so the wood ants, they have so these are all workers, but different types of workers within the colony. So you have miners, you have medias, majors, and then super majors. So the miners, which would be the smallest, they don't leave the nest. They look after the eggs and the queen. The medias would be your normal worker, which most people consider a worker ant. Majors are the equivalent of a soldier ant, so big muscles in their head for crunching and defending. And then species like Carabera diversa and a few of the Asian species have super majors, which are the exact same as a major, just double the size.
Wow.
They usually rival the size of the queen. And in Carabera diversa, the queen is about, if I'm right, it's about 23 to 24 millimeters, which is, if you look at one in a test tube, it's quite big.
Yeah, it's about half an inch, isn't it?
No, it's an inch. It's an inch. But...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Wow. So it's a pretty big bloody ant, that. Yeah.
I had no idea. No idea that they could get that big.
The bigger they are, the more expensive they tend to be.
So Carrie has a really great question. She wants to know what species is sold for children's ant farms.
That's a fairly good question. Obviously, if it's a children's ant farm, you don't want anything that stings at all. So it depends what you want to enjoy from the colony.
Okay.
Every species acts differently. They all have their own little quirks and stuff that they do. But off the top of my head, for a children's ant farm, definitely not anything that stings. All ants bite, so you can't get away with that one.
Right.
The easiest ones would be ones that spray formic acid as their main defense, because if they spray you with that, you can't feel it unless you get it in your eyes. But
the ants
would be near your eyes. So
that's fascinating. I didn't realize that there were species of ants that sprayed formic acid.
The majority of ants spray formic acid as their main defense. That's the general one. So bite and spray formic acid, and basically what that does is it's stored in their gaster, and they'll turn around and spray it into. So if they're defending the nest, any bug that's coming, they'll try and aim for the eyes and joints and stuff like that. So that's their main defense. Obviously, all ants bite, but there's only like certain species that have stingers and stuff like that. So yeah,
that's cool.
Children's ant farm, probably a Campanota species. Probably something that doesn't grow too fast either, because you don't want to be spending loads of money having to add to the setup.
Mhm.
I'm not going to say laziest Niger because, well, we spoke about that.
What about wood ants, mate?
Yeah, wood ants. So, yeah, Formica wood ants probably be the better one. They don't grow too fast. So Formica cinerea or Formica fusca would both be good ones for a children's ant farm because they're quite large in size, so they're interesting to watch, and they grow fairly quick. So yeah, Formica or Camponotus.
So would you recommend buying one of those like children's, ant farm type thing? Or would you recommend rather like actually just buying the queen in the tube and then growing them from that? Or like which is the better option for a kid?
You can buy the classic children's ant farm, so the two clear bits, and you just fill it with sand.
Okay.
You can buy that. It's generally not ideal for long-term keeping ants. It's definitely more of a, if you're doing it as a little project and you want to see how they work, you'd get one of those. If you want to keep them long-term, they're not ideal and they become a pain quite quickly. So you'd want to go with a purpose-built nest from a company, and then an outworld. But if you're buying them and they haven't got many workers, you'd keep them in the test tube.
Okay.
Until they've grown on a fair bit. The general rule that I go off is when you're trying to feed them in the test tube, when it becomes hard and they start getting out when you're trying to feed them, that's when you give them a nest, so to speak.
Okay. Well, cool. I appreciate that advice, and I'm sure a lot of people who are interested in keeping ants would appreciate that advice as well.
Yeah.
So I was curious if you have like a favorite species or if you have a dream species.
There's so many to choose from.
Atters. Go on, it's going to be atters, isn't it?
Yeah, I do have a favourite species. That's Polyrachis species, and these guys don't nest like normal ants do underground.
Ooh, okay.
So you have weaver ants, which are from Asia, Australia, Africa, and they'll build basket nests in trees, and they've evolved to their eggs, instead of spinning a cocoon around them when they go to pupate, the workers pick these eggs up when they start spinning this silk, and they'll glue leaves together to make a nest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then Polyrachis are known as lesser weaver ants. So they do the same thing, but instead of being up in the trees, they do it in small bushes and stuff like that. So they're my favorite species. As a dream species, I'd probably have to say Dasaton amerigium, because they are just awesome, and there's only one person I know in the world that has them as a pet, and they only come from one place in the world too, and you can't actually get to it because it's Amazon rainforest.
Oh, wow. Is that the leaf cutters?
No, that's leaf cutters you can get quite easily.
Oh, okay.
They're many people's dream species. They are expensive and they are extremely hard to keep.
Well, you've got to keep a good like supply, I suppose, of leaves to be able to keep them going.
Yeah, there's you can keep them in the UK quite easily. You can feed them, Damien. You can keep them fairly easily. It's just the environment. They can't go 1 degree above or 1 degree below what their set temperatures are.
Oh, so they're very specialized.
Yeah, due to the fungus that they
Right.
keep, which is their food. if the temperatures go off or the humidity goes off the slightest bit, the fungus goes funny, and then it just goes downhill from there. But food-wise, you can feed them quite easily. There's a few people that feed them stuff like bramble, which is readily available in the UK. Dried rose petals, stuff like that. There's someone I know, I can't remember who it was, but they fed their leaf cutters broccoli.
Oh wow!
Quite some time, and they take all the green bits off the top, and they just leave the
stem.
Still, but yeah, I don't know if that would work long term, but I know it's been done.
That's fascinating. As you know, I mean, recently the Butterfly Pavilion that's here in Colorado, they actually unveiled a 17-foot like enclosure, or basically a exhibit of leafcutter ants from.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and they're amazing, but I could tell that they're having to supplement leaves somehow because the plants that they have in the enclosure just didn't, the ants chewed them up too quick.
Yeah, they are. I don't actually know anyone that keeps leaf cutters in like a bioactive setup with real plants.
Okay.
I've seen it in the zoo.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure which zoo, but I know there is one zoo in the UK that has a colony of them. But usually, if you're keeping them at home, you have it's called a pod system, and it's basically cylinders, clear acrylic. You have the main one, which is where they live. Fungus is in there. You have a second one, which is garbage, which they'll take all the rubbish they don't want, such as like sticks, dead ants, bits of fungus that have gone rotten. They'll dump it all in there. And then you have a third pod, which is a feeding pod. And you basically just, whatever you're going to feed them, you just dump that in the feeding pod, and they'll cut away at it and sort it out. But yeah, apart from the zoo, I've not actually seen any bioactive leaf cutter setups.
Interesting.
So, but yeah, I'd imagine they probably just chew through everything you put in there.
Yeah, right. Like that's what I was thinking too. Is it'd probably be really, really difficult to keep a bioactive, just because they would eat it so quickly.
Yeah, and the humidity conditions would be quite hard to replicate.
You'd have to find plants that are sustainable in that situation. But I mean, plants don't grow fast enough.
No, not for a contained. Contained setup.
Simon, what do you think? Do you have a favorite species of ant or a dream species? Anything?
Yeah. I really, really like dead ones. As Baz knows, I just don't like ants. I've never liked. I like looking at them. I like the behaviors and all the rest of it. But as a pet, keep them in the house. No, you can keep them. honestly, I really, really don't like them. I mean, my wife's got ants. She's kept like I got a colony off Baz of then Barbarus, and Liliana's ended up with it because I just like looking at them and thinking these are no fun whatsoever. These are just boring.
See, Baz, we're in the same club. He doesn't like tarantulas, and he doesn't like the ants. So Lily keeps all of that.
Yeah,
we're good.
Yeah, everything doesn't like goes to Lil.
I just like the cool stuff.
Yeah.
The boring stuff that hides underground, you can keep it. It's like I don't keep worms either. They're dull.
You like ants more than cats, though.
I mean, Baz is. I've got to admit, since I've known Baz a few years now, and I must admit he's one of the smartest ant people I've ever spoken to. I know he's really does know his stuff about the ants. There's no, as you've just seen, he can rattle off plenty of species and all about them. And
well, he helped us
Google. You know what I mean? He's not googling them.
Right. No, he helped us a great deal when we were talking about invasive species, and we were trying to remember what was the ant species, and it was the yellow crazy ants. So thank you for that.
It was the only one I know that's invasive is Solenopsis. That's it. And I'm lost after that.
Well, the Solenopsis have made their way to Europe now.
Have they?
Yeah. At the start of last year, they made their way into Europe.
Thanks, America.
So it won't be long. It won't be long. I mean, I can't imagine they'd survive in the UK because the winter temperatures, they just freeze.
No, I don't.
But in the summer, you might start seeing them.
Yeah, but we've had a few invasive species over the years since I was a kid. We've had when we've had hot summers and that, things have come over and they say, "Oh, we're going to be invaded by this," and it was always in the newspapers. It was Colorado beetles, it was Spanish moths, Asian onyx, all sorts of things. And then winter comes and everything's dead.
Yeah.
You know, it just kills everything because it's not just the winter that we have here. It's not the fact that it's cold. It's such a long period of time. Our winter is a very long period of time, and when it's not winter, it's wet. So it's like they're going to drown or they're going to freeze. There's your choice.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, where I live in the UK, it's supposed to be warmer than the rest, but in the winter it is absolutely freezing. So I can't see anything invasive surviving.
You would die up here, Baz. You would die up here.
Yeah.
You would die, honestly.
So, oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I've seen him in winter telling me it's cold, and he's told me the temperature, and it's like 5 degrees higher than it is here. And I'm talking centigrade, not Fahrenheit. So it's like, that's not cold, mate. That's t-shirt weather. You know? It's the difference between us being up here, we're Vikings, and down there, they're French, you see. That's the problem.
French? Oh, no.
The French? Oh, geez.
You're the first ginger Frenchman I've ever known, but...
Yeah. Oh, that's one. Yeah, Jay will be happy. Jay will be happy.
Oh, yeah. I was supposed to say something. Jay asked me to say something. I can't remember what it was now, but it was something like Ginger Ninja or something like that. I had to slip that in somewhere. So there you go.
So Carrie says that ants are good survivalists. They can survive on all continents of the world, excluding Antarctica, which is true.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you never know. I suppose a lot of people haven't been to Antarctica to look for ants.
Well, that's true.
You never know. There might be.
We don't know.
Yeah, there might be some cold species. Probably not, but yeah, no, all continents. You'll find ants. Even in the desert, there's ants.
Oh yeah, and Lily is saying that they are great engineers, which I completely agree with. They are incredible as far as that goes. They're very organized. I mean, if you've ever seen, the ant colonies, you can tell, like, this is their dumping ground. This is where they get their food. This is where they're, nurturing the eggs and the babies and hatching them. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just it's almost, they are better than the human race, really. But then again, it probably doesn't take much. So,
right?
You're not setting a high bar, are you, Baz? Really?
No.
You know what I mean? It's not a very high bar. No,
so
not at all.
I also know that ants are being studied right now for their ability to be able to like have that hive mind. And so scientists don't believe that it's like one-minded kind of thing. They think that it's because of the pheromones or like the hair, the hormones that they put out to one another. Would you say that that's true?
Yeah, it's definitely to do with pheromones. So when I feed my ant colonies, some of the smaller ones, obviously, they chill in the nest, and you don't see any in the outworld. If you put a bit of food or sugar stuff in there, one will come out and will take a taste of whatever you've put there, and then we'll go back into the nest, and they start sprinting around. And when they're doing that, they're releasing pheromones of "I found food," sort of thing. And then a second ant will come out, or if they're hungry, they'll all come pouring out. But pheromones are definitely the key to ants.
Wow. That's cool. I love that, because I mean, I'm sure that we, as people, we've all observed some sort of ant behavior that would indicate that.
Yeah.
So I was curious if you had observed that kind of behavior in your own colonies.
Yeah, all the time. It's basically everything they do day to day is off pheromones.
Wow.
So yeah, pretty much everything they do is off that. I know there's been a few experiments and stuff. You can also do your own experiments with pheromones and ants. So I've had one going for some time. Every single ant colony produces a different pheromone, even if they are the same species. So you can have two species of the exact same ant, but they'll have different pheromones. So the experiment I've got at the moment is with the Mesobarbarus. They can only have one queen per colony. If you try and add another one in, they'll just kill them and stuff.
Wow.
So basically, what it has been done before. There are Meso colonies out there that have more than one. I think someone's done one with about 4 queens, and they're living quite happily together.
That's amazing.
So to mix up the pheromones, if you was going to do something like that, you need the foreign queen, so the one you're adding to smell like the other colony. So yeah, the way I've done it is I've got a test tube. I've put this queen in with the other colony, but the end of the test tube is blocked with gauze, so she can't get out and the workers can't get in. And over time, because she's in the same setup as the other colony, she'll get that colony's smell instead of her own.
Interesting.
And then the theory is when I let her out, the colony should take her in. It's not done yet, so I don't know.
Oh man, I'm excited to hear about the results of that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a long-term thing, but there's lots of little tests you can do with stuff like that.
Sure.
I know people have done them with adding workers from a completely different species, and then taking the eggs of that species and giving them to another species. And then the pheromones play, and they take those eggs back in, and they hatch those eggs. And the ants don't know any different. That they're not even from, even though they look completely different, they don't know that they're from a different colony. But yeah, there's lots of little things you can do and try, but that's on the more expert level.
Sure.
Doing stuff.
That's pretty cool, though. I mean, ants are already like fascinating on their own, so it's pretty.
Simon that.
Yeah, well, yeah, Simon, they're cool. Like, if you ever want to figure out, learn how to be a good teammate, you just watch ants, man. They're.
I do like them. I don't want to keep them. This is the same with the tarantulas. It's like I'm fascinated by them, interested in them. I just don't see the point in keeping them. I find them dull to keep because you can't see these things. Whereas I can go on YouTube or Curiosity Stream and I can see ant stuff all day long that other people have done, and I can see it close up, and rather than me trying to squint and look at it.
Right. So ants have a 3-segmented body, right? They have 3 segments to their bodies.
Yeah.
Very cool. I was wondering what their purpose in nature is. Like, what is it that they do in nature? Because I'm sure, I mean, each different ant obviously is going to have a different purpose. Like leafcutter ants, they help keep like the plant populations in check. So I'm just wondering, like, what fire ants do. What do they do?
Fire ants, I'm not too sure, apart from being a pain.
Right.
Ants, I think the majority of all ants would be to keep smaller insect populations down. And I mean, if you think about it, I suppose they're kind of like a cleanup crew.
Okay.
So isopods, springtails are cleanup crews. I'd say ants are probably quite similar, because they are majority scavengers. There's only a few species that will go out and hunt actively, but the majority of them are scavengers. So they'll always pick something dead over something that's live,
Okay.
and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd say their main purpose is, yeah, just being like similar to isopods, just cleaning up and making sure everything goes okay in nature, I guess.
No, that makes total sense.
Yeah, they're good at aerating soil, for the
good.
reason when they dig their nests and stuff in root systems and stuff like that.
Okay.
They're quite good at that, and then the scavenging.
Cool. Okay, well, we're at about an hour, so I think we've reached the point in the podcast where we do our shameless plug. So, I'll go ahead and hop out first. I got a new snake, and it's awesome. Like, I got a Vietnamese blue beauty, which if you know anything about snakes, you know that they are incredibly hard to find because they're hard to breed in captivity. And so I was at this, the All American Reptile and Plant Expo recently, and there was a vendor there that had little baby blue beauties, and I could not pass up on that snake. Just could not. Absolutely not. Because again, when am I going to see the snake again? So yeah, we named her Mona Lisa, and she's absolutely beautiful and amazing. Simon, do you have anything new and exciting to plug?
Probably squirrel videos and hatching videos. That's all that seems to be on the agenda. Anybody doesn't know, we've got a baby squirrel, and who's getting to like a teenage baby squirrel now. And she's taking up a lot of time in between doing other things. So I'm not even around very much like I used to be on Facebook and that, and answering things.
It's true.
Because of her. But yeah, I'm hoping she'll calm down and chill out. We've just booked flights for Portugal, so we're going to be going there.
Awesome.
And having a look round. I'm going to do some streaming from Portugal.
I'm excited for that.
So we're not going to be static. We're not going to be in one place in Portugal, like in a hotel or anything. We're going to be moving around, because I'll be looking at bugs and hopefully hats for Baz. To be honest,
yes.
That's what I'm going to have a look for. I'm going to see if I can find some ants for Baz. We've already discussed this. So yeah. That's about it, really. At the moment, of course, Christmas is coming soon. Got lots and lots of things that are waiting to hatch, so I'll be ready to, put them on the market at Christmas. There you go.
Perfect.
What are you doing, Baz?
Well, I can't even think of. There's lots going on here at the moment. Up to my ears in stock and stuff that I've got to sort out. Yeah, the only thing I can say is check my Facebook and stuff. It's all going to be, that's the main place I post and stuff. At the moment, well, going to try and get back into it. So yeah, if you want to see all the new bits and bobs that's happening, coming in, it'll be on there, I guess.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Very cool. All right. So, thank you everybody for watching and listening. Thank you so much, Baz, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely loved talking with you about ants, and we'll have to have you on again.
Yeah,
for sure. Because I'm sure there's a few questions that some people might not have gotten answered, so that's okay. Next time we will. And then, of course, thank you everybody who tuned in for being patient with us. We were a little running just a hair late today, but we pulled through.
My apologies.
Oh, no worries. That's,
I lost my camera, Baz. Don't worry about it. I couldn't find my camera, so he wasn't alone.
No, you weren't alone. But overall, obviously, thank you everybody, and we will see you guys next time.
Adios.
Thank you, everyone.